In this episode of Pop Culture Weekly, I talk with Cody Walker all about FuelFest and how he's honoring his brother Paul's legacy. Let's go!
Welcome to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon from iHeartRadio. Your pop culture news, views, reviews, and celebrity interviews on all the movies, TV, music, and pop culture you crave weekly. Here's Kyle McMahon.
Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon. I, of course, am Kyle McMahon, and I thank you once again for hanging out with me for the next little bit. Today, it is a very touching episode. I sat down with Cody Walker, the brother of Paul Walker, all about his FuelFest, which is this awesome festival where he is carrying on his brother Paul's legacy through this festival by raising money for this amazing charity that Paul himself had started. So I'm really excited to talk to him. I know you're going to love it. Let's just get right into it. Here's my interview with Cody Walker. So I am here with Cody Walker, and we are talking about FuelFest, which I'm really excited to talk to you about. And I want to get into a bunch of stuff, and we'll get into FuelFest in a few minutes. But one of the reasons, reasons for FuelFest existing is the charity that you are obviously heavily involved in. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I'm actually wearing a shirt. ROW, we call it ROW for short. It's called Reach Out Worldwide. Paul started it over 13 years ago, coming up on 14 years, January of 2010 after the Haitian earthquakes. And it's a nonprofit organization that puts boots on the ground, volunteers with various backgrounds, whether it's like medical or construction related, and they send teams into disaster zones to help communities after disasters. One thing he realized and learned after that trip to Haiti that he took after the horrible earthquakes was that there's a massive gap between, the supplies and getting those supplies to the people. We see it time and time again in these disasters. We saw it most recently, obviously in Maui, is probably on tops of a lot of people's minds. But he was the beating heart and soul of the organization, and he funded it himself. And I wanted to find a way to help fund the organization. And they say to do what you love. I love cars. He's a big reason for that. And so I created FuelFest. We donate a portion of the proceeds of every single show to Reach Out Worldwide. And we're somewhere around $400,000 raised for charity at this point. So I'm extremely grateful and so proud of everybody that's helped to make that happen, because it is a piece of him that he left behind, and it's very important, very special to us.
I love that. I think it's such an amazing thing to carry on, and it continues on his legacy. Speaking of Paul, it'll be 10 years next month, depending on when people are watching or listening to this. Looking back, I lost my mom 2 years ago. I have a tattoo with her signature from one of her cards that says "Love Mom," and I actually do a show separate from this, a limited series with iHeart Podcast Network called Death, Grief, and Other Shit We Don't Discuss. And I did that in the immediate aftermath of my mom passing. She passed from pancreatic cancer, which at the time had a 9% survival rate. In just 2 years, it's been raised to 12%. And I went all across the country. I talked to the CEO of iHeart the day my mom passed away. And I don't know if I was in insane grief or what, made me. But I'm like, I have this idea for a show. It's called Death, Grief, and Other Shit We Don't Discuss. It's 13 episodes. Here's what I, want to do with it. And that is because I think I needed to do something with that energy, or I would have gone crazy. And so I went across the country talking to various experts on death and grief, starting with, and so the first half of each episode tells my mom's story, and the second half of each episode talks to a subject matter expert on that particular topic. So the first episode is the diagnosis. So I tell my mom's story about when she got diagnosed, and then talked to a oncology psychologist about what do you do when you or a loved one gets a diagnosis that could be life-threatening, and it goes all the way through to death rituals and beyond. That's what I did for my with my grief, and still do. The biggest thing that I've learned from talking to all of these people who have lost loved ones is that you never, from what I've gathered, you never get over it. You never stop grieving. You just learn how to live with this massive loss in your life. Is that true for you?
Absolutely. Very well said, Kyle. The pain never goes away. You think about that person. It's time helps. It's such a lame thing to say because people say that all the time. The only thing that helps is time, but outside of that, yeah, there's a gaping hole that's always there. I guess that, that's living, that's life, right? That's what makes life so, I guess, beautiful in a way too. It's just like, you got to embrace those that you love, give them a hug, tell them you love them every day. Cause you don't know, I'm sorry to hear about your mom. My best friend, he just lost his mother to pancreatic cancer as well, just 2 months ago. From the point of being diagnosed to her being gone was a matter of a year. I mean, it's
a devastating disease, and one of the things that I did in the wake of this was created a foundation to help raise money to go to research. It's one of the least funded cancers, and one of the most deadly. So I do little events here and there, just to raise money in my mom's name. That's what I wanted. Instead of doing it in my name, I wanted it to be in my mom's name. And it's amazing what being involved in this foundation has done for me, and it helps me in so many ways, and it carries my mom's legacy on. She taught me, she would give the shirt off her back to anybody, and so this kind of went hand in hand with that. You talk about time, and for me anyway, it's not that time heals in this regard wounds or whatever. For me, it's learning through time how to live without that person. And so, I come, as I talk about her now, I think about her all the time, and she was such a powerful force in my life. A brother. I mean, that's unimaginable. Had you guys ever talked about, if I go, if you go, anything like that?
I'm quite a bit younger. Same parents. I was the accident. I was 15 years. I was 15 years younger than Paul. He was the oldest of the family. I was the youngest. There's two in between us. He would often jokingly say stuff, like, oh, one day when I'm old, or like I'm old and broke or whatever, like you're gonna have to carry the torch. You're gonna have to take care of me, and but no, we never talked about death and dying. I mean, to be taken at 40 years old. Honestly, if you knew Paul, I'm sure you know somebody like this in your life. Maybe it was your mother. There are people in our lives, you look at them and you go, that person is indestructible. It sounds so stupid to think, because obviously we're all mortals. We know that everyone has a time, but Paul was just could do anything, did everything, and was just I don't know. It's just, for him to be taken, it was the most unbelievable thing. It's like, oh, I could see so and so or so and so, but not Paul. Like, that's just crazy. I mean, guy seemed like he could do anything, and everything would just kind of bounce off of him. So no, we didn't talk about death, or you go, I go, stuff like that. It was just kind of, looking to the future and what he still wanted to accomplish. And, he wanted to have more children. He wanted to be a better father. He wanted to, he was kind of he was at this point in his life at 40. It took him 40 years. He started to really understand what was the most important things to him in his life. And he had an opportunity the day he passed. He called almost every member of our immediate family and had a conversation with, which is the most special thing, but also totally out of the ordinary. He called me. I was at work. So glad I got to take the call. And we talked. He had spent like 3 hours with my mom in her home, called my dad, called my brother, Caleb, had talked to my sister the day before. And then, that afternoon he's gone. And it was just the most I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it for several days. Just to set in, I would call his phone, thinking he'd answer the phone just to listen. It's just like, man, oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so, if you were here, I'd be hugging you right now. It's, we lose a piece of ourselves, we really do. And,
for sure.
And one thing for me, my mom kind of made me promise, she couldn't let go until she knew that I would be okay. And I kept putting off that conversation, Mom, you're not going anywhere. So I'm not even answering that. And then finally she kind of pleaded with me one day. She was like, Kyle, please, for me, I need to know that you're going to be okay, And I, kind of pulled myself together, and I'm like, I realized what this meant to her, and I didn't want to deny her that. And so I said, I don't know how, but I'm going to be okay. You've given me all the tools that I've needed over my life, and somehow I will find a way to wake up tomorrow, and the next day. And that for me has been a reminder when I'm having those bad days or bad moments, like, no, she doesn't want you to do this. She wants you to get up and face the day and put a smile on your face and help other people. And, I think that is part of how they live on, through Roe, through the work that I do, we are sharing a piece of them with everybody else. And in doing that are helping other people, which is a beautiful gift in itself, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For you, one of the things that for me on the passing side is that we, similarly to you, we as a culture, really, we don't talk about death enough, and we don't have those hard conversations. They're uncomfortable. You don't want to have them. You think they're indestructible. My mom was always my rock. No matter what I was going through in my life, I could call my mom and she'd be there in an instant, no matter how bad I effed it up, and we don't often imagine our lives without these people. And I think it, for me, that's kind of the what's it called? The double-edged sword of life is that when you love so much, when you're it's also going to hurt so much if you lose that person, or when you lose that person. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned through losing Paul?
The biggest lesson I've learned is that you can't take any of your relationships for granted. You don't shit happens, you never know when it's somebody's time. I think that's I wish it was like more eloquent thing for me to say. Like I had something. I'm not the best with words, but that's you don't know. You don't know when someone's time is going to come. I think we often think in our culture, you think about older people passing away, grandparents, stuff like that. It's kind of the natural order of things. So, and I think most people are on that list. Not all, obviously, but most people, when things go good, it's it's the grandparents that passed away. Not every family goes through some horrible tragedy of losing somebody well before their time. So I think and that was me up until that point. Like, I was very fortunate, didn't have any tragedies in the family that were that I had lived through up until that point. So that's definitely the biggest takeaway for me is I feel like my grandparents, I got to like prepare for that. They got old, and my grandfather died of Alzheimer's, which is a very slow and very terrible disease.
Yeah.
My grandmother of dementia. But that was like a process. That's something I got to like mentally prepare for. And by the time they were gone, they were already gone for a long time because their minds were gone, right? It was just kind of their physical being was still on earth. For Paul to be taken was obviously a shocker. And it just made me realize, like, people that you love in your life, you got to tell them you love them every time you get off the phone, every time you see them, every time you say goodbye, give them a hug. That's something that we do in my family every time we get off the phone. I love you.
Yeah.
I don't think enough people do that. I don't think people do that enough. But that's to me is just how precious life is and how delicate it is. It's really,
beautifully said. And thank you for, sharing that with me. One thing that you've taken from this tragedy is, as we talked about at the beginning, you are carrying the torch with Row, which is how essentially why FuelFest was started, right?
Yeah, that's why I did it. Like I said, Paul funded Row all on his own. That was his thing, because he had the means to do so. He liked doing it. But because he was taken so suddenly, so tragically, he I think he thought he'd maybe live forever. Like, honestly, I don't know. He was not very good at planning for the future. I'll be completely honest. He's a kid to the end. He didn't have all the right things in place for when his day would come. That's the other takeaway I've learned, especially with children. It's like, get your things in order, get your estate in order, get everything figured out as best as you can to make it easy on those that you just left, So with Reach Out Worldwide, the funding and everything, it was none of that was set up in such a way that it would have continued on after he passed away. So funding went away. There's incredible people around the globe that love Paul, that support Reach Out Worldwide to this day. It's a great base of grassroots donors, car enthusiasts, movie lovers, people that love what Paul did, and big thank you to all of them for all their support. I needed to add to it. I needed to create something that was also a more sustainable method for funding for the organization. So that was the beginning of FuelFest, and now here we are. We've had many shows here in the United States. We've even gone international. We've done 2 years in Japan now.
Wow.
That's just an incredible time. I love it over there. We've done a show in the UK. That was before COVID. We do want to go back. Got to figure that out. But upcoming here, we have October 7th is our Las Vegas show. So that's actually this upcoming Saturday. And we do have a pre-party the night before on the 6th. But it's so much fun. I'm so grateful for the support and the fans and everybody that comes out, and we've really created a really special experience. It's a car show. It's a music festival. It's motorsports with drifting and drag racing, and I mean, we've even implemented monster trucks, ride-alongs, where people can ride along with a drifting pro
Yeah,
and
that's
actually go
terrifying to
in a
me.
drift car on a drift track, and experience all of this. It's the sights, it's the sounds, it's the smells, it's all of that. And we're really bringing everybody together. Whether you're an American muscle car guy, or you're a Japanese tuner guy, or you're more into the exotic cars. I don't, we have it all. Everything is so well represented at our shows. It's celebration of the car culture. It's getting everybody together. I'm not for these takeovers. It's really creating a bad rap for the car scene. Those aren't enthusiasts as far as I'm concerned. Those are a bunch of idiots,
Hmm.
criminals doing stupid things, and endangering people. This is a place where we can responsibly have fun with cars and get everybody together, and that's what it's all about. And I'm having so much fun doing it. And we'll end the year in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is where I live now, here in AZ, on December the 9th. And then we'll shortly thereafter release the whole schedule for 2024, where we will start the year off in West Palm Beach, Florida again. So
Awesome.
it's rad, man.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
I was invited. You guys graciously invited me to come to Jersey, and unfortunately, I was already booked. But as soon as you release the dates for next year, I am marketing it. I'm coming to one of the shows. I was so
We would love to
excited.
have you.
Thank you. And one of the things that I thought was really cool, and you have so much going on that it's hard to mention it all, but I really like that you have the Electra fueled section. Is that what it's called?
Electrofest.
Electrofest, yes.
Yeah.
Where if
Yeah.
if you're a fan of EVs, there's so much cool technology coming out and some beautiful cars coming out that are celebrated, and you can come check them out at FuelFest as well.
Yeah, I think what really gets me, and what I like seeing, is people taking these electric power units and putting them in old cars.
Right.
It's like the new resto mod situation that's going on. That's
Yeah.
super interesting, crazy. I mean, if you've ridden in an EV, you know how fast they are.
Yeah.
It's really wild. I'm still a holdout, though. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I
of
like
course.
the
Yeah,
sound of a motor.
yeah.
It's like it's a connection to the driver that they're gonna solve it somehow with the EVs.
Yep.
This is truly the beginning. EVs aren't going anywhere. They're going to continue to develop them. They're going to figure out how to win people over, like myself, I'm sure. But yeah, it's all are welcome. Like you said, I'm glad you brought that up. EVs too. Some of our shows will have the drag racing, and the guys will inevitably show up with a Model S Plaid or something and put basically everything to shame with their instant torque electric motors. But sound matters, man. Sound matters.
It really does.
It matters a lot.
Yep.
So for me, I'll take the slower car that makes all the pops and bangs.
Oh, the new,
and
yep.
sounds.
I just
But,
love that
I
you
guess-
included that.
Yeah,
you know?
and those cars aren't going anywhere either.
Of course.
This is the transition that's going to take decades, honestly. It's
Of
gonna take
course.
a long time. So
Yeah, I love that you have that included for somebody like me. That obviously I appreciate the traditional motor engine cars, but I also love EVs. So it's cool to kind of you have that option or as part of the experience. I love that you have so much going on at FuelFest. Is every city just like a different vibe, or for FuelFest?
Oh yeah, it is. It's a very different vibe. Like our West Palm Beach show in Florida, we pull from all over the state, and it's an hour and a half from Miami. They like to party. Floridians like to party. If we could stay open all night long, they would stay. Like the energy into the night, that it just like the night, as it becomes night, becomes a whole nother vibe. Like,
awesome.
It's just gorgeous. Texas Motor Speedway has its own vibe because you're inside Texas Motor Speedway, and it is like this mega track, where they do the NASCAR races and all of that stuff. So it's just like a different vibe there. And then we'll go to LA where this all started. Obviously massive car scene, globally speaking too. It's just, you have so much in Los Angeles. And we do that at Irwindale Speedway, which is known as the House of Drift. They actually, coincidentally, they ended up filming lots of sequences of Fast 9 at Irwindale. When you're going back and you're seeing Vin's character as a young man, and it's in the black and white, it's like these flashbacks. That was actually all filmed at Irwindale Speedway.
Oh, cool.
So everything has its own vibe. Depending on where you are in the States or the world, I think a lot what I've really come to understand is it's people enthusiasts are everywhere, right? It's a universal language. If you like cars, it's a universal language. It's not like, it's special in that way. But if you're in, Florida or Texas, it's just dominated by high horsepower cars because you have long stretches of road and the way that they build their tracks and everything. Whereas LA, you have canyons and twists and turns, and it's not necessarily all about all the power in the world. It's about the driving dynamics of a car through the turns. It's very interesting because you have the culture, but then you have the subcultures.
I love that.
And the way that people do things.
So you'll get a different experience wherever you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, I want to, somebody is listening or watching and they want to come. Do they just head to the website, fuelfest.com, and they can just get tickets and then show up?
Yeah, fuelfest.com. It has all of our upcoming shows, including the one in Vegas this weekend on the 7th. You can grab tickets there. You can find all the information, where they're at, where we're going next. And then give them a follow on Instagram, Facebook. It's just FuelFest. It's a verified account. And that's where you get up to the minute, updates leading up to the show. We do a lot of ticket giveaways and stuff like that too, to just like make it fun and family friendly. 12 and under are free. I think that's awesome, especially nowadays. It's like costs you $500 to take the family to go see a movie.
Yeah.
That's what's up, fuelfest.com.
Awesome. And Row, where can we go? What's the best place to go?
So you can Google it, but it's kind of a mouthful. So we just do ROWW.org.
Perfect.
It's row.org. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram as well, to find all the latest information, and you can see how to get involved. You can volunteer, you can donate. So that's
perfect.
That's it, man.
Perfect.
That's it.
Thank you.
Row.org.
And we'll have all the links in the show notes as well, so people can go and click right through. Great. Cody Walker, thank you so much for speaking with me. Next time you come around, for next year, we'll do it all again for the new tour dates. Thank you very much for speaking with me about FuelFest and Row.
Thank you very much, Kyle. Thanks for having me. It's great talking to you.
You as well. There he is, Cody Walker, such a talented guy, and I love that he's taking his grief and is making something beautiful with it while carrying out this legacy for his brother Paul through Row. ROWW.org is what it is. FuelFest has already raised $330,000 for Row. So it's pretty incredible. Go and check out their site. We'll have more for you as it comes. I can't wait to go to FuelFest myself. And don't forget, depending on when you're listening, they're in Vegas this weekend, or check the website, fuelfest.com, for the full calendar. All right. Short one this week, but powerful one. I love you. I'll see you next week. We out.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Weekly. Hear all the latest at popcultureweekly.com.